Welcome to Phonogenics 101, a Riotboy production hosted by Jeremy Gloff. The podcast where people who love music discuss albums track by track. Please hit subscribe, and if you'd like to support this podcast, patreon.com/Jeremy Gloff or Venmo @Jeremy Gloff. And now, on to the music. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phonogenics 101. I'm your host, Jeremy Gloff from Tampa, Florida, and we are doing a special episode today. We have a special guest. Michael Goldberg is here, who is about to release a really special EP of music, which he's here to talk about. We have our usual panel of Tadia from Norway, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then Richard from Georgia. So I'm going to just shut up. Oh, first of all, thanks to the subscribers and the Patreon, all the people that support this podcast. But now I'm going to shut up and turn it over to Tadia because he is the reason that we are all here. Take it away.
All right. So to make the story short, I'm running an Emmylou Harris Facebook group, which has been running now for many years. And in that group, we share music, news, history, everything related to music when it comes to Emmylou Harris and her work and so on and so on. And so we are now, I think, around 70,000 people that are there chiming in and out. And we also run the page on Instagram as well. We have several new members every day. So when it comes to this story here now is that we were talking about music that was pre-Gram Parsons. That would say that before 1973, when she started to release music with him. And prior to that, she had already released a solo album in 1969 called Gliding Bird. But between Gliding Bird and Gram Parsons, GP and Grievous Angel, Emmylou was active, but we didn't hear much from her through those 2 years from that. But we know that she has shared stories here and there about doing folk music and playing in bars and stuff in DC, but not much has surfaced from that era because she didn't release any music at the time. However, in 2007, she released a box set called Songbird, and that had music from all her albums, rare songs and outtakes and unreleased material and so on. And so Michael Goldberg was one of the member of the groups, and he said earlier in a post,
"You're frozen."
Did I freeze?
No, I still got you.
Okay. He said earlier in a post that he had played with Emmylou in the early days, and that was kind of interesting to hear from somebody who actually knew Emmylou before she became the Emmylou Harris that we know today. And we started to talk about material they had recorded, and he said that he had recorded with her, but I played him a couple of songs from that box set, Songbird box set. Well, it goes to show that Michael was on those songs and he had no idea that that was out there. And then he said that, hey, you know, I'm playing on those songs and I'm doing music now and I want to do music, but we recorded those songs. How did you get them? And I was like, I didn't get them. This is some material that Emily just put out there, you know, a couple of years back. And that's when it started to turn interesting. Everything started to get interesting because he had a big story with Emmylou Harris about from the 70s, you know, recording with her, playing with her. And it goes to shows that he and Emmylou had worked together in 71. And they recorded in the studio as well. And that's the material that we are going to talk about today with Michael, because all of this is unheard. Nobody has heard these songs before. He has kept them in his vaults for all these years, and I'm not sure if he even had been thinking about releasing anything or putting it out there, but it's sort of like started to go back and listen to those songs, and I don't know, I'm surprised how good they have stood the test of time and how great those songs were. And I mean, it's pretty cool to hear that Emmylou Harris had a very much musical life way before she became the country music Emmylou Harris we know today, or country folk or whatever. She was basically a folk singer back then, and she was very active. And this kind of like is a good documentation of what went on back in those days. But me and Mike, we have talked, we back and forward. We have shared a lot of information. He has played me some of the songs, and he has shared some great information and history with me. And I think it deserves to be out there among people, because this is great music. This is well done. And Michael is an artist in his own right, and he's doing his own music still today, and he's very active. So I would let Michael share with us how this all came about, what happened, and how the whole thing started.
Yeah, so welcome Michael Goldberg to the podcast. It's
great to be here.
4 songs that are coming out, correct?
Yes. The story is even crazier than how it was explained. I made a Facebook post from some pictures I had of Emmy. I live in Virginia Beach. And when Emmy, in 71, 72, when I first met her and performed with her, she was a folk singer, but she had also played on the tour circuit, the folk circuit, which included Virginia Beach. I think her father may have actually, he was in the military, may have actually been in Virginia Beach. I'm not 100%, but not the Virginia Beach, Washington, the Birchmire in Virginia, Northern Virginia, Richmond, and then Virginia Beach was part of that tour. I decided when I was 19 that this is a crazy story. I promoted a concert, and in that concert was Chicago, Bruce Springsteen, and Buddy Miles. And Buddy Miles' band didn't show. So I said, well, I'll play keyboards. And then Bruce said, well, I'll play. And some guys in the Chicago played. And at the end of the night, they came to my apartment, and my roommate say, hey, play them some of your songs. And they say, you should go out and be a musician. Well, I never really thought about it. I was in my first year of college, but I quit college and I moved to Baltimore and said, I'm going to become Elton John. I'm a keyboard player and songwriter. And so I went out to become a songwriter. Everyone said, you need to meet a guy named Orrin Smith. Orrin, now Baltimore is very close to Washington. It's about a 40-minute drive, but it's 2 disparate and different cities. Washington being very folk-oriented, and Emmy at that time was very embedded in those folk circles. I was more of a rock and roll blues guy. So I went out to find Orrin Smith, and he was performing on a Sunday night in an improvisational jazz series over at Peabody Conservatory Music. And it turns out that all the top musicians in Baltimore was there. So I said, hey, look, I want you to hear my songs. And Orrin loved them. I had never performed in my life. And there was a brand new club opening in Baltimore called The Classroom. And this was at the time when Baltimore City was just starting. So you have Maryland Institute of Art, Peabody Conservatory of Music. You have Fells Point, which is kind of the blues, the kind of punk area. You have all the colleges. So there's a mixture of people in Baltimore that fit how I wrote music, which is I wrote a whole bunch of genre music. So a new club opened up and Orrin got me booked there. And all of a sudden I was selling out every night, 150 people. And I was a house band there for over 2.5 years, 6 nights a week. And one night I'm walking upstairs, which is where I played, and I see this girl with a beat up guitar case, beat up boots, and I got to the top, and she says, hey, can I go and play some songs? I said, sure. Well, it was Emmylou. She couldn't get work. So the minute I heard her, I said, well, what the hell is this? Well, this was just incredible. So she started singing backup occasionally in my band, and there was a recording studio. The engineer was George Mathenberg, who invented the parametric equalizer. Orrin Smith was part of George's house band. So all of a sudden, I had the best musicians in the region, and Emmy singing backup occasionally with me. We immediately went in the studio and recorded a song I wrote when I was 16 called There Is Time. And it was just so good that we kept going in with Emmy as a backup singer, or in these cases, she was singing duet with me. So we're very lucky that the top radio stations back then were playing original music that wasn't on a record. And so I was getting airplay, and in turn, Emmy and I were getting booked as Goldberg and Harris, because I was selling out that everybody knew me, but they didn't know who Emmylou was. And Baltimore was not a real folk town. There's certainly folk clubs, but not certainly like Washington. So as I was experimenting with my original music and playing different genres of music, and as you'll hear on some of these songs, we were doing improvisational jazz, some rock. Certainly, I'm not a folk writer. So Emmy taught me a song called Sugar Babe by Mance Lipscomb. And I made it into a country song. And we went in and recorded it. And it has become popular to this day. Well, at that time, I had learned unique ways to get into A&R guys and the records, and the record labels. And the way I did it is I worked from the bottom up. I gave tapes to the guys in the delivery room or the mail room or the secretaries. And I created a buzz. I would never let them have a picture of me or know who I was. And by the time I got up to the A&R, it was, who is this guy, Michael Goldberg? Well, I had all these songs. Excuse me, get a drink of water. I had all these songs of different genres that everybody on the lower levels were freaking out over. But I benefited from having the best musicians. And by the way, Orrin went to go and play with Dizzy Gillespie and Richie Havens. I had all those guys playing with me who made me sound good. And then my originals were performed with the Baltimore Symphony. And I went to a guy named Willard Alexander. He owned the world's largest jazz booking agency. And he offered, in fact, in the PowerPoint I sent you, there was a contract that he said, well, I want to use you and Emmylou as the test of my agency getting into modern music. Well, then the Graham story happened. Every other, it was either Monday or Tuesday night, Emmy and I traded those nights with a group that wrote Take Me Home Country Roads. So when we finished our set, two guys came up to us and they said, hey, can we buy you a drink? I said, sure. So one guy said, well, last week I was with John Lennon. And then this other guy says, I was with Stephen Stills. And I turned to Emmy and I go, who are these guys? And they said, well, it's Chris Hillman and Michael Clark from the Byrds. And I went, oh my God, I'm talking to the guys in the Byrds. Well, they were playing in a band called the Flying Burrito Brothers, 2 blocks down the street, in a club called the Cellar Door. And they said, well, you all want to come over and sit in. And we did. So that was it. I was very familiar with Poco, very familiar with Graham in the Byrds. And then a few months later, I became very close with Michael Clark. He loved my original music. So all of a sudden, Emmy says, well, come on down. We're going to play with the Burritos again. But this was the Graham Parsons audition for Emmy. So upstairs is where the dressing rooms were in the cellar door, and down there's a private area, and there was the audition for Graham. I didn't remember, but Rick Roberts from the Flying Burrito Brothers and Firefall told me a few years ago that I actually sang duet with one song at that audition. And I said, well, Rick, I'm not a singer. I mean, I'm a songwriter singer. I'm kind of like the Burt Bacharach, Jimmy Webb kind of thing, where the songwriter version. But I was actually there at that audition and played the remainder of the week at the cellar door of Graham. By the way, Rick Roberts is the one that told Chris Hillman about Emmy, because Rick is from the DC area. Well, one of the nights in this club I played in, I started booking national talent. I booked Al Cooper, Spencer Davis, for 4 nights. And I would open up for all of them. And one of the groups was Tracy Nelson and Mother Earth. Well, Mother Earth was managed by a guy named Travis Rivers. And Travis was the boyfriend manager of Janis. He took Emmy and me to the band's recording studio, and across the hall was Janis recording her last album, and we recorded 6 songs. So I don't know whatever happened to those songs, but coincidentally, when I get this introduction on the Emmylou group, I had found that reel-to-reel in a storage area, and I had it on my desk. So when I started the communication on the Emmy group, out of the blue, he sends me these songs, and within seconds, I go, where did you get that? And I went on nationwide tours. I was playing with Focus, with just famous groups, playing at the Whiskey A Go-Go. I was playing all the showcase clubs. And I got a manager who then got me with one of the heads of A&R at CBS. So it became kind of de facto that Clive Davis was going to sign me. So we went to a club called my father's place up in New Jersey, up on the island, and we stunk to high heaven. I don't know what happened. We were horrible, and Clive hated us. But there were numerous famous people that I played with that called Clive and said, "Hey, you made a mistake. You've got to sign him. You need to rethink it." So we were rescheduling a date, and then Clive got fired. So they put me on a cross-country tour, took me over and to headline 2 nights over at the Whiskey. And there I had the Who, Come Hear Me, the Beach Boys, Sly, Peter Asher. One of the groups that I played with was a group called The Section. Well, The Section is Jackson Browne and Carole King's backup band. So I'm going, oh my God. So when I got home, we didn't get any firm offers. And quite candidly, for people that have gone through trying to become a nationwide act, it's very time consuming. You've got rehearsals, you got, keeping the trucks and equipment going. And in 1973, music started to change because disco came out. So clubs were closing, and my crowd were going to disco clubs. So I could see the writing was on the wall, and I had to decide. I think like most musicians, when they get to be 24, 25, you're trying to go, am I willing to starve for my art? So I decided to quit. And then I got a call from the manager of the Eagles, and he called me and said, Rick and Roberts and Michael Clark were forming a band called Firefall, and would you join them? I said, no, I'm done. I just want to go home to Virginia Beach, and I want to write music. And while everybody wants to be a rock and roll star, and certainly I would love everybody hearing my music, it was just too much. I was burnt out. So I went home, I wrote music, and played with all the best musicians here. And I didn't tell a soul about me playing with Emmy. I never played those songs to anybody. So for this chance meeting happening on a Facebook group, and all of a sudden, I'm getting pushed. I always call him Turget. I can't pronounce his name correctly. How do you pronounce your correct name?
Tadia.
He started pushing the living hell out of me. So I decided to write and record. And then some of the people that I was recording with, Stevie Winwood's guitar player, and they start going, Michael, you need to go play live again. So I said, okay, I'll take a shot. So on a Tuesday night from 7:30 to 8:30, I would play a club once a month. Well, all of a sudden, about 75 people showed. The next time, 150 people showed. Then 250 people showed. And all of a sudden, 350 people showing up. I'm going, oh my gosh, it's great. But I wasn't trying to make a living from selling the songs. And I became very perplexed on how people were breaking songs because of Spotify. How do you do it? And COVID hit. And I discovered that I could get access to a lot of famous musicians who needed money that were out of work. So I got got some of the guys in Billy Joel's band, some guys in other bands like that to start backing me up. But what I was missing was when you go in a recording studio and you kind of put things together in the studio, that is what I love. That is music that I love. And all of a sudden, I met Phil Madeira. I said, well, Phil, would you play a song? He brought me members of Emmy's band. And so, I was telling him the story. And then I said, well, look, would you guys come up and play with me? And they said, yeah. So we have a club here that is a break club where it holds about 350 to 500 people. And I booked it, and hell if we didn't sell out, and people were paying to come hear me play. So I just started to re-engage with Emmy. And again, it was the first time I ever told the story of me and Emmy. So I went up and met Emmy twice, and I said, well, what do you think we should do with these? And I didn't know what to do. And I still don't. So I guess by the pushing of doing this, it has been extraordinarily fun. And I play about 3 times a year, and 350 people pay money to come hear my original songs. I hope I wasn't too long-winded. But that's kind of the story.
No, I love it. All right. And so that leads us to coming out on Spotify. So what's the EP going to be called? Are they all grouped together as a group of 4 songs?
I'm putting other songs that I recorded with these other musicians over COVID, and it's called Hiding in the EP is called Hiding in Plain Sight. And one of the musicians that I was playing with said, well, you've been hiding in plain sight. I said, well, yeah, I guess I have been. So that's what I'm calling it.
Oh, that's a great name. I love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the 4 songs that do feature Emmylou. I listened yesterday. I know everyone on the panel. I just feel like they are such an indication of a more free-spirited era. I love the time signature changes. Even the songs kind of change genre mid-song, and that's just a signpost of a freer time. I love the songs. I think they're really interesting. Uh, I think the world's going to love hearing Emmylou in a totally different context than we've ever heard her before.
Well, there's one song called Nixon. It's 11 minute. I don't know how to explain this 11-minute song, but it starts out very improvisational jazz. I love John Cage. I love all that. I'm a Zappa freak. And I was very fortunate that the people in the band could orchestrate it. And even more importantly, with George Massenburg, because at the time, as George was inventing the parametric equalizer, whatever the Beatles did, we would do, playing songs backwards, slowing songs down. George would emulate whatever George Martin was doing. So the four songs were, first is There Is Time, and it's just a 5-piece band with flute with them. And the song I wrote when I was 15 years old. Sugar Babe, which was written by Mance Lipscomb, is very country. Mm-hmm. And it could be one of the first country songs Emmy ever played on, because she wasn't playing country when I knew her. She was a folk singer. The third song, I don't know how to explain it, because it is with the 5-piece flute playing pretty prominently, but it's kind of a rock jazzy feel. And then Nixon, if you can get through it, is 11 minutes. And in fact, it's probably one of my favorite songs I've written because of the free form eccentricity and the free form of that song. A lot of different walking parts of that song. In the middle of the song, as it gets towards the end, it goes to a kind of a Randy Newman-esque influence. Why don't we go ball in the Capitol Hall? It was very influenced by Randy Newman.
And you also suggest that everyone gets naked on the White House lawn, correct? Yeah. Any takers? Right. Let's do it.
I so dislike Richard Nixon that I figure that's what we'll do. We'll go get naked on the White House lawn and go see what happens.
Yeah, the Come On Home I really enjoyed, because that one starts off kind of as a ballad, and then there's three different time signatures throughout that whole song, aren't there?
There is. Mm-hmm. And what's unique is, again, I'm not a singer, and I always go, well, I can sing with Emmylou.
Right.
You sure make me sound okay as a singer-songwriter. And to this day, the musicians push me to sing some of the songs, but I've been very fortunate to have some great people sing my songs. Adrienne Warren, who's a Tony Award winner for performing Tina on Broadway, she sung my songs. But these songs have never been released. It really wasn't until this push here that I recorded all these songs. There are about 50 songs recorded, but nobody's ever heard them.
Okay. So could there be a Hiding in Plain Sight Volume 2 in the future, possibly?
I think so.
Okay. Well, Tadia, do you want to jump in and tell more about how you move things along with this?
Well, I think it's interesting to hear. I've heard quite a few of his songs now, and it's an interesting pick that he picked these 4 songs. Are we able to play a little bit from each song, or?
I think I'll get a copyright strike if I do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I basically think that people need to go in and hear them. You have to, when you're listening to these songs, I would recommend to go in with an open mind, so to speak. Because this is not going to be Emmylou Harris with the Nash Ramblers or with the Hot Band or with Linda and Dolly. This is Emmylou Harris in a totally different field than what you have heard before. And it's basically Michael singing the songs, and she's there, chiming in and doing harmonies and stuff. So it's easy to spot when Emmylou Harris is singing back up with anyone, because her voice is so kind of like, it's sharp, and it comes through. So there's no doubt when you're listening to the song that you can hear this is Emmylou, you know, straight away.
Sure.
And from a historical perspective, I think this is a very, very interesting, because it all makes sense now, in these days that Emmy has kind of like gone back to her folk music now more than she has earlier. She is not as much country anymore as she was known for when she was having all her hits in the 70s and the 80s, you know. But the songs that she's doing now and that she's been playing more are more folky. And I mean, like, this shows where it all came from, you know. Her love was in folk, jazz, blues, and she would do, like she said, when she did country music back then, which if she played it live, it was more like tongue in cheek, she used to say, you know, because she was like more, she wasn't totally convinced that country music was her thing to do.
Well, we did perform some country songs, but there would be Tammy Wynette, George Jones. I mean, those are the kind of tunes that we would play. What's really surprising, I think, and it really became apparent when Emmy was performing with Ringo, is Emmy likes rock and roll music.
Yes.
And she can sing it. So when you saw her performing with Ringo, you could see it come out in her, of course it's Ringo, who wouldn't be excited, but Emmy likes rock and roll music.
She likes rock and roll music. She has recorded songs by Paul and John Lennon, Paul McCartney and John Lennon. She has recorded songs by Paul Simon, you know, Paul Siebel, which is also a folk singer, songwriter. I mean, there's just tons of music to pick of songwriters that she has been doing through the years. But people tend to think that she's still a country artist because she has her way of doing the songs that kind of like makes them an Emmylou Harris country, so to speak, song anyway. But yeah, your songs are, it's good material and it's still current, and I think the people deserves to hear it. That's why I've been, like you said, I've been pushing. Yes, I have, because I really think it deserves to be heard.
Well, I thank you for pushing me, and there was a lot of pushing. A lot of it had to do with my reluctance to, I didn't want people to think I was capitalizing on Emmylou. That really bothered me. You know, we have seen, people of our age, we see these kind of releases of bootlegs and things like that that I think are kind of slimy when these things got released. I didn't want to be that guy. That was kind of my reluctance.
Right. And I don't feel that comes off like that at all, because these are your songs that you wrote. And you own the material. Do you care to talk about any of the other songs from the album, just since we have you here? What else is going to be on the release?
Well, I'm sure everybody has seen the Jardiance commercial, the first one that was played 1 million times. Well, Deanna Colon has become the lead singer in my band, and she sings I'm very influenced by Etta James. I'm a blues guy. Here in Virginia Beach, we're a beach town. And beach, I don't know how to classify beach music. There certainly is a classification of it, but it's very R&B, raised on Aretha and Wilson. But beach music has it to this day. There are people 75, 80, 85 going out once a week and dancing the shag. That's what beach. It's a dance. Now, Jeremy, you live in Florida, but if you go up just a little north, up to South Carolina, to Myrtle Beach, they're still doing the shag. Okay. North Carolina is definitely shag heaven along the coast. And in Virginia Beach, to this day, they have beach music. There's one of the most famous beach music bands is Bill Deal and the Rondells from Virginia Beach. And so that was 1964, 65 they started. They still play weekly and sell out 300 people.
Wow.
It's an amazing thing. that this happens here in Virginia Beach. In fact, some members of a band here locally called Hotcakes just celebrated their 50th anniversary, and some of those guys play with me. So there's a longevity of great music where I live here that have fortunately embraced me as a songwriter, and fortunately that crowd, that 55 to 80 crowd, believe it or not, they like going out and hearing music. I don't know about where you guys live, but that does happen here in Virginia Beach.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there are still things happening that maybe need to be celebrated and heard and recognized more. People are still creative and still making music past the age of 40, 50, even 60. So that's why I think it's so important that we're all talking about this and doing this thing. We definitely have that pocket here down in Tampa of, it's not just the youth. We still have that spark in us. So
yeah, there's a band in Naples, Fort Myers, called Deb and the Dynamics. If you have a chance to hear them,
okay,
they're one of the top bands. When I was about 60, I decided to take a flyer and started an R&B band called the R&B All Stars, and within months we became the top R&B band up and down the East Coast, and we opened for the Beach Boys, Huey Lewis, the Spinners, and then I had just gotten married and had young kids, and my wife said, "You're not coming home at 3 o'clock anymore." But she went down to Fort Myers and Naples and formed Deb and the Dynamics. One of the other songs I'm releasing is a band called Lost in '69. I love Steely Dan. I love all that, and I was able to write. And again, I think my strength as a songwriter is I write many different genres of music, and here in Virginia Beach, we have the Air Force and Army Band, and they're among the best musicians in the world. You wouldn't believe how good these guys are. So my horn section comes from usually the Navy band. Most people don't equate that, and hopefully Mr. Trump doesn't put the end to the bands. But they are great ambassadors of the United States out to countries playing American music. And you wouldn't realize that.
Then he's sure to put an end to him.
Well, Richard, is there anything you want to add? I feel like I know you're kind of.
Well, I mean, I'm somewhat older than these other guys. I'm 70, and I'm from DC, so I remember the Cellar Door. I know Clyde's. Used to play around the area quite a bit too. So, but mostly in the coffee house circuit.
That was Emmy's world.
Yeah,
I wasn't that guy. I was a rock and roll blues guy.
Yeah, I didn't see Emmylou until right after Graham died. She started the Angel Band, so I used to go see them all the time. Right. So that's when my connection with her music began.
You're very fortunate because Cellar Door, which unfortunately doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
I think it held maybe 150 people, maybe
192 was their official capacity.
It was a small club, and to hear the acts that played there, I played there with Richard Pryor. I mean, I played there with some great people. Bill and Tammy Nivert. Well, you're probably very familiar with them.
I knew them back in DC. Yeah, Bill and Taffy. Yeah. But I mean, I saw so many great people at the Cellar Door. I saw Joni Mitchell there. I saw Laura Nyro there. I saw Muddy Waters. I saw Mother Earth. Saw Dizzy Gillespie there. I mean, a whole lot of acts.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah,
the people that played there. It turns out that one of the owners of Cellar Door was from Virginia Beach, and when they went nationwide, pre-Live Nation, they started amphitheaters. So, but the Cellar Door was historic, and I can't tell you how humbled I am that they booked me there to play so often. and to play with some great people, let alone the Flying Burrito Brothers, because I maintain without Graham and the Flying Burrito Brothers, modern country doesn't exist. He had Poco, but the Burrito Brothers that really, in my opinion, really started. And you were right there in Washington.
Yeah.
I think Clyde's exists in Washington, D.C. I think I saw it when I was down there still.
Oh, it still exists?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Clyde still exists.
I walked past it. In Georgetown?
Yeah.
Clyde's is in Georgetown.
It's on M Street. It's not, they're the ones that had Afternoon Delight on their menu.
Oh,
yes, because I was walking past. I was down there. We were going down there because someone wanted to share some good donuts with me, and I went down there with donuts, and I turned around and I was standing. I was like, "This is Clyde's. This is wow."
As you look at Clyde's on M Street, and you're heading towards Virginia, which is maybe a mile and a half away, away over the bridge. That's where the cellar door was.
Yeah,
right on the corner.
34th and M. It's a Starbucks now.
Oh no.
Well, I will be down there in 3 weeks. So I will head over and check it out.
Take some pictures in front of the Starbucks.
I will.
But Clyde's also opened a branch. I haven't been there in a long time in Northern Virginia, and we played there a couple of times. But it was nothing like Clyde's on M Street. It was just a small little room with a piano and a mic.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, everyone who has watched this, if it's not out yet, it will be out soon. Michael Goldberg, Hiding in Plain Sight. For the Emmylou fans, once again, the 4 songs that she sings on are Come On Home, the 11-minute epic Nixon, Sugar Babe, and There Is Time. So, Michael, is there anything else you want to say to get people ready for this exciting historical release?
Well, thank you for everybody. And I really thank you for the push, because without you, I would have never, ever done this. And you pushed me for many years. And I'm very grateful for it. I got to play with some great musicians. And I'm very humbled that people are now, I turned 77 in a few months, that people come and pay to hear me play, which is really hard.
Well, as I say here, Vikings are known for kicking people's butts if they don't listen. So that's
You did.
Oh, well. Well, Michael, thank you so much for stopping by the podcast. I'm excited for this to come out. I'll get it posted. And then, like I said, you said it should be on Spotify by the end of next week, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
All right. So everyone watching this can listen and get the anticipation. Then when it drops, I'm sure. Do you want to share your social medias here for people to check out?
Well, I'm on Facebook, but it's under Michael Goldberg. I don't know what the link is.
Okay.
I think if I turn my phone around and do it, but you can search for Michael Goldberg and possibly find me. Or, Terje can I always say, call him Terje. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm used to far worse than that.
Yeah.
It's my age. It's my brain.
And my name's Jeremy Gloff, and Michael is on my friends list. So if you can't find his profile, just search my friends, and all of us are on there. So, all right. Well, any final statements before we wrap this up? I'm very excited for these songs to see the light of day.
I am too. I'm really excited for people to hear it, and I hope everybody likes it.
Oh, they're gonna love it. All right. Well, we will see you all on Spotify, and have a good day, everybody. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Bye-bye.